Imagine looking at your mobile phone bill next month and seeing a balance of exactly $0.
Oh man, that would be nice.
Right. I mean, not a promotional discount, not some temporary credit for trading in an old device. Just exactly $0. And not just for a single month, but like forever.
Honestly, it sounds like an absolute fantasy. Like the kind of aggressive spam offer you just immediately delete from your inbox without even opening.
Totally.
Yeah.
But it is not a scam. Today, we are diving into this explosive strategic report detailing something called the Nexus Project. And I assure you, this isn't some cheap marketing gimmick designed to trick you into, a new 2-year contract or whatever.
No, not at all.
It is a desperate, frankly, genius survival strategy by telecom companies to fundamentally flip the power dynamics of the global tech and finance ecosystem.
Yeah, and we are going to examine this through the lens of the absolute titans that dominate our daily lives, especially here in the U.S. market. We're talking about companies like Google, Meta, Amazon, Visa, and Elon Musk's SpaceX.
All the heavy hitters.
Exactly. The mission of this deep dive is to understand exactly how the telecom industry plans to use your everyday habits to dethrone these tech giants. And crucially, why their success in this massive corporate war is actually designed to benefit you financially.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to understand why a $0 phone bill is even a realistic business model, we first have to understand why these massive, incredibly wealthy telecom companies are currently fighting for their very survival.
Right.
I mean, we all pay our phone bills every month, right?
Right.
These corporations seem totally invincible. How are they backed into a corner?
Well, if you just look at a monthly statement, yeah, they appear invincible. But looking at the underlying physics of data traffic and the infrastructure reveals a rather humiliating reality for them. I mean, think about the sheer geographic scale of the United States.
It's massive.
It is. And telecoms bear unimaginable infrastructure costs to cover it. They are laying thousands of miles of submarine cables across oceans. They're digging these huge trenches across the Midwest for fiber optics.
Oh, yeah, and building 5G towers across the Rocky Mountains and trying to squeeze them into every major urban center.
Exactly. They're pouring hundreds of billions of dollars into the physical foundation of the internet.
So it's the concrete, the steel, the permits, the actual fiber optics. It is heavy, expensive physical labor.
And despite all those massive, highly risky capital investments, the companies reaping the astronomical profits aren't the telecoms. The real wealth is being captured by global big tech firms, YouTube, Meta, Netflix.
Right, the ones actually using the network.
Yeah, and the telecom industry actually has a somewhat depressing internal term for this reality. They call it the dumb pipe phenomenon.
Dumb pipe, wow.
Yeah, they have been reduced to a mere conduit. Just a dumb pipe for someone else's highly profitable data.
It's like, yeah, that's like the telecom spent billions of dollars paving this state-of-the-art 10-lane highway from coast to coast.
I like that analogy.
But then, companies like Netflix and Google were allowed to build all the rest stops, the restaurants, the toll booths along the way, right?
Right.
They capture all the actual revenue. So the telecoms are just staring at the asphalt they poured while big tech gets rich.
That is exactly it. And the frustration runs incredibly deep. But, the situation is actually moving from just frustrating to genuinely terrifying.
Because of space, right?
Yes. The threat isn't just that big tech is capturing profits on the ground anymore. The real existential threat is currently orbiting right above us.
Let's talk about satellite internet.
Specifically, direct-to-cell, or D2C, satellite technology.
Right.
This is driven by companies like SpaceX's Starlink. Low Earth orbit satellites are no longer just beaming internet to a bulky dish on the roof of some remote cabin in the woods.
Right, it's gotten way more advanced.
Way more. The technology is advancing to the point where those satellites can beam a connection directly to the standard smartphone already sitting in your pocket.
Wait, so if a satellite can beam a 5G or maybe 6G connection directly to my phone from space, then all those expensive terrestrial cell towers that telecoms just spent a decade building across the U.S., they become completely obsolete.
The entire physical advantage just vanishes. I mean, why would a consumer need a local terrestrial network if they have a literal constellation of satellites overhead providing seamless coverage everywhere?
They wouldn't. They'd just bypass the traditional carriers entirely.
Exactly. Users could just pay Elon Musk's company directly. The traditional telecom subscriber base wouldn't just shrink, it could completely evaporate. So the telecoms realize they cannot survive as a dumb pipe anymore. They must build an entirely new ecosystem that a consumer will never, ever want to leave.
A completely impenetrable moat.
Exactly.
And according to the Nexus Project report we're looking at, their primary weapon to build this moat doesn't have anything to do with faster internet speeds. It targets a massive vulnerability you carry in your pocket right now, which is your financial security.
Yes. Think about the mechanics of how you pay for things right now at a store. You use a digital wallet, right? Apple Pay, Google Pay, Samsung Pay. Consider where that highly sensitive financial information actually lives.
Well, when I set it up, I scan my physical credit card, and then the system stores a secure token physically on a chip inside my phone. So essentially, my financial data is walking around the city with me in my pocket.
Which represents a massive structural vulnerability. A smartphone is fundamentally flawed when it comes to serving as a financial vault.
Because it's always online.
Exactly. It is a device constantly communicating with the open internet. It has dozens of third-party apps running in the background at any given moment.
Oh, and the text messages. Like if a user accidentally clicks a malicious link in a text message, say one of those incredibly common fake USPS package delivery texts we all get.
Right, the smishing attacks. If you click that, malware can infiltrate the operating system. And because your financial data is physically housed inside the phone itself, once the device's operating system is breached, your financial life is compromised.
So the vulnerability is literally the physical location of the data. If it's in the phone is a huge target. So what is the telecom's proposed solution to this?
They call it the Smart Safe, and it completely reverses the architecture of mobile security. In the Smart Safe system, your smartphone stores exactly 0 bytes of personal or financial data.
Wait, nothing.
Literally nothing. Instead, all your payment tokens, your credit card details, your identity markers, all of it is kept in a highly secure virtual server buried incredibly deep inside the telecom's own core network infrastructure.
So they are taking the data out of my hands entirely.
Yes. This total physical isolation is called an air gap. In IT security, an air gap means there is absolutely no direct network connection between the secure asset and the vulnerable outside world.
Okay, let me push back on this a little bit because the logistics of that sound kind of impossible. You were saying my physical phone becomes essentially an empty plastic shell.
Basically, yes.
It's like leaving my entire life savings in a thick, impenetrable vault at a Swiss bank and then walking around New York City with a completely empty wallet.
That's a great way to put it.
Sure, if I get mugged or if I click a bad link, I lose nothing. But how on earth do I actually buy a coffee if my phone is completely empty? If I tap an empty device on a card reader, nothing should happen.
I get why that sounds confusing, but the mechanism here is a complete reversal of the traditional transaction flow. It directly answers the problem of the empty phone.
Okay, explain that.
Right now, when a consumer buys that coffee, their phone actively pushes their secure payment data to the store's point-of-sale system, the POS.
Right.
The Smart Safe system flips that dynamic 180 degrees.
Okay, walk me through the actual mechanics. I am at the local coffee shop, I have an empty phone, I tap it. What actually happens?
So when the device taps, it is not giving any data to the store. Instead, the store's POS system generates a unique temporary password called a net key. The store's POS pushes that net key into your empty phone, usually via a QR code or NFC. Near-field communication, that technology that lets two devices talk when they are just a few inches apart.
Sure, the standard tap-to-pay tech.
Exactly. But the crucial detail here is that the phone does not process this key. It doesn't analyze it or open it or anything. The phone acts strictly as a delivery relay.
Just passing it along.
The microsecond that net key hits the device, the phone instantly throws it up to the telecom's secure air-gapped server.
So the phone is literally just a mirror reflecting a signal.
Yes. Once the telecom server receives the net key, it talks directly to the coffee shop server over the back-end network to approve the payment. The physical phone is entirely bypassed in the actual financial transaction.
That is a fascinating workaround. But what is actually inside that net key? I mean, if the store's register is generating it, how does the telecom server know what to do with it?
The architecture of the net key is brilliant in its minimalism. It contains only 3 ingredients. First, a one-time random number token that is valid for exactly 30 seconds.
Okay, 30 seconds.
Second, the merchant's ID, which identifies that specific coffee shop. And third, the payment amount, say $5.
That is the entire payload. No consumer name, no account routing numbers.
Not a single byte of personally identifiable information is transmitted between the store and the phone.
Okay, here is where the logic gets a little fuzzy for me. If my name isn't in that net key payload, how does the telecom server know whose bank account to charge? All it receives is a random 30-second password that essentially just says $5 at the coffee shop.
That's the genius part. The network itself provides the missing piece. A user's identity isn't proven by a typed password or by a file stored on the device anymore.
Then how is it proven?
Identity is proven by the physical reality that the phone's SIM card is connected to the telecom's specific cellular network. The telecom knows exactly which subscriber count is attached to that network node at that exact millisecond.
Oh, wow. Because they own the airwaves. The network itself is the authenticator.
Exactly. When that net key is thrown from the phone to the server, the cellular network acts as the ultimate identifier. The system registers that the $5 request from the coffee shop was relayed by the device pinging cell tower sector 4, utilizing a specific SIM card tied to a specific account.
That's wild.
It verifies the purchaser without ever sending an identity over the local Wi-Fi or Bluetooth.
This completely changes the entire threat model. Because even if a highly sophisticated hacker breaches the coffee shop's network or intercepts the NFC tap at the register, all they manage to steal is a random string of numbers that expires in 30 seconds. It has zero personal data attached to it.
It structurally eliminates both digital interception and human error. Think about it. A consumer cannot be tricked into reading a sensitive password to a scammer over the phone because the consumer doesn't even know the passwords.
Right, they can't give away what they don't have.
Exactly. They're generated dynamically by the merchant and handled completely invisibly by the network.
Okay, unbreakable security is a fantastic feature, I'll give them that. But security alone doesn't pay the corporate rent. How does moving my data to an air-gapped server translate to the telecom company eating my $100 monthly phone bill? They aren't running a public service here.
No, they are absolutely not. They are executing a highly calculated business model based on what they call indirect billing. When a consumer uses this telecom-powered payment network instead of swiping a traditional credit card, the telecom takes over the role of the payment processor.
Oh, I see.
They collect the merchant processing fees that would normally go to legacy financial institutions. Simultaneously, they collect highly valuable, anonymized big data insights about consumer spending habits.
Wait, let's pause on the data aspect for a second. If the net key only contains the merchant ID and the price, how is the telecom gathering highly valuable big data? What are they actually learning if my name isn't in the transaction?
Well, while the specific identity isn't handed to the merchant or exposed to hackers, the telecom internally knows exactly whose device relayed the signal.
Right, because of the SIM card connection.
Exactly. So when they aggregate those purchases across a month, say coffee at 8 a.m., gas at 5 p.m. on Thursdays, groceries on Sunday afternoons, they build an incredibly rich behavioral map of a consumer.
That's a lot of behavioral data.
It is. They don't sell the individual's literal name to third parties, but they sell access to those macro trends and highly targeted advertising profiles. And that data is exceptionally lucrative.
So they are building a highly accurate map of consumer behavior without actually exposing the individual to the public web.
Yes. And here is the core of the Nexus project. Instead of hoarding all the revenue from those merchant fees and data insights, which, let's be real, is the classic big tech playbook, the telecom shares those profits with the consumer.
Wow, they actually share it.
Yeah. The user becomes an active business partner. Your everyday actions, like buying groceries or getting gas, generate revenue for the telecom, and that revenue is automatically applied to pay down your monthly phone bill.
It's conceptually similar to watching a few sponsored ads so you can access an article or video for free. But instead of actively wasting time engaging with ads, a person is just living their normal life, buying their everyday necessities, and the sheer momentum of that commerce pays their phone bill down to zero.
Exactly. And consider the scenario of a heavy spender. What happens if the merchant fees and data value generated by a consumer actually exceed the cost of their monthly phone bill?
I don't know. I'd assume the telecom just banks the surplus as profit, right?
You would think so, but no. The Nexus project outlines that the excess is deposited directly back into the user's digital wallet as liquid cash.
Wait, real cash?
Actual dollars that can be spent on more groceries or saved up to purchase upgraded hardware.
I have to admit, this sounds a little bit dystopian. The telecom is essentially paying me to exist inside their ecosystem. I am trading $100 a month for a pair of golden handcuffs. They're giving me an offer I literally can't refuse, but I'm basically trading my freedom to switch providers.
You have identified the psychological lock-in trap perfectly. It is an exquisitely designed retention mechanism. The telecoms will never mandate the use of the smart safe. They won't force you.
But they'll make the alternative look terrible.
Exactly. They present the consumer with a stark choice on a scale. On one side, the current reality paying high monthly phone bills while carrying the constant risk of getting hacked, smished, or having a credit card skimmed at a gas station.
And on the other side.
On the other side, absolute air-gapped financial security and a phone bill of exactly $0.
It leverages pure financial self-interest. Any rational consumer is going to choose the free, highly secure option. And the moment they do, that startling threat we talked about is totally neutralized.
Exactly. If Elon Musk offers to beam internet straight to a smartphone from space for, say, $50 a month, a user who accepts that offer and abandons their terrestrial telecom network instantly loses access to the smart safe.
Right, because they left the SIM network.
Yep. Their absolute financial security vanishes. And their monthly communications budget goes from $0 back up to $50.
Yeah.
Consumer churn, which is the metric of people leaving a network, basically drops to zero. The moat is fully flooded.
They neutralized the space race by making the ground just too comfortable to leave. It's brilliant. But let's look at the macroeconomic math of this for a second.
Okay, let's do it.
If a major U.S. telecom is waiving millions of phone bills, I mean, we are talking tens of billions of dollars in lost subscription revenue every single year, how does the company remain solvent? Even with merchant swipe fees and data sales, sacrificing that much guaranteed monthly revenue seems incredibly risky. Yeah. What is the hidden engine driving this?
The hidden engine is a concept the report refers to as the escrow river. And to understand it, it requires looking at how money actually moves in the financial system.
Okay, let's follow the money.
Think about the mechanics of an online purchase. A consumer clicks buy, and the funds are instantly deducted from their checking account. The consumer feels the immediate pain of that purchase. But that money does not instantly appear in the merchant's bank account. It takes days to navigate the complex, aging plumbing of the U.S. financial settlement system. It has to process through automated clearinghouses and batch settlements.
So the money's just floating in a digital purgatory for a couple of days.
Exactly.
All right.
Now multiply that dynamic by the scale of U.S. e-commerce. American consumers spend trillions of dollars a year online. That is billions of dollars in transaction volume every single day.
That's a massive amount of floating money.
It is. Under this new telecom-powered payment system, those millions of daily transactions sit in a massive temporary settlement account controlled entirely by the telecom during that multi-day lag. The report highlights markets like Korea, where just one day's online traffic generates roughly 1.5 trillion won in delayed settlement funds.
Wow.
Translated to the U.S. market, we're talking about tens of billions of dollars constantly pooling in a telecom-controlled account.
Literally an endless river of money in transit.
And the volume of that river never drops because new daily purchases constantly replace the transactions that finally settle and exit the account. Furthermore, add the massive volume of funds users voluntarily load into prepaid digital wallets just for convenience.
Oh, right, like how people hold $50 on their Starbucks app.
Exactly like that, but scaled across an entire national telecom subscriber base.
The scope of that is just staggering. The
Yeah.
telecom is holding tens of billions of dollars. And because that capital is technically in transit to a merchant or just sitting as a prepaid balance, the telecom isn't paying a single cent of yield or interest to the consumers for holding it. They've effectively created a zero-interest bank.
You hit the nail on the head. They possess a staggering reserve of interest-free liquidity. They can deploy this massive pool of capital to earn safe investment yields, such as purchasing short-term treasury bonds. And they can utilize it to issue loans to merchants or consumers within their ecosystem.
That changes everything.
It does. The telecom ceases to be a mere conduit for data. It transforms into a national central bank level liquidity hub. The interest yields generated from this float absolutely dwarf the revenue lost from waiving consumer phone bills.
They essentially become the financial bedrock of the economy. But wait, if they control the network and the payment processing, they're on a direct collision course with the legacy giants.
Oh, absolutely. It raises a massive question about the architecture of global finance. Currently, if an American buys something online from a foreign supplier or travels to Europe and purchases a meal, that transaction data is forced through global toll gates, primarily the Visa and MasterCard networks.
And any U.S. merchant will tell you that interchange fees, those swipe fees, are absolutely brutal. Visa and MasterCard take a hefty percentage just for letting the data cross their bridge.
The Nexus project bypasses those bridges entirely. Telecoms plan to utilize their own interconnected global cellular networks to transmit the transaction data directly. Say a U.S. subscriber taps a device at a register in Paris. The French telecom network can pass that net key directly to the U.S. telecom network over their own back-end infrastructure. No traditional credit card network is involved at all. Seriously. The telecoms simply pocket those massive cross-border exchange and network fees for themselves.
It's an incredibly aggressive disruption of the established financial order. But let's look at the friction here, because Americans are deeply entrenched in their current habits.
Yes, we are.
We love pulling out a plastic credit card. We love double-clicking the side button on an iPhone to pay. And we really love our credit card reward points. How does a telecom actually convince U.S. consumers, and more importantly, local brick-and-mortar merchants, to adopt a completely new hardware and software standard?
The transition relies on a very carefully sequenced incentive structure. For the local merchant, the motivation is pure margin survival. The current U.S. swipe fee system is bloated by middlemen, specifically PG and VAN companies.
Wait, what are PG and VAN companies?
Payment gateways and value-added networks. They are the hidden intermediaries in the legacy system that route the data from the store's terminal to the bank. And they take a slice of the transaction at every single step. The telecom system cuts out these middlemen entirely, which drastically lowers the processing fees for the merchant.
Okay, so a local business saves money on overhead immediately. That makes sense. But hardware upgrades are expensive. Why would a coffee shop buy a brand new card reader just for this?
Because consumer demand will ultimately force their hand. Consumers will aggressively seek out and actively patronize stores that support the telecom system.
Because every tap at those specific stores pays down their phone bill.
Exactly. Furthermore, the system instantly applies store loyalty memberships and digital coupons in that single microsecond tap. There is no more fumbling around trying to scan a separate barcode on an app.
So the economic pressure from consumers forces the merchant to adapt. But changing human habit is notoriously difficult. What is their actual rollout strategy for this?
The strategy is a 4-step, highly stealthy integration. Phase 1 is strictly habit building. The telecoms want to train the user to rely on one-touch biometric logins for the telecom's own proprietary apps.
So like Face ID.
Right. No more typing passwords to check an account balance. Just use facial recognition or a fingerprint, and the user is authenticated instantly.
So it's about reducing friction. Once a consumer gets used to a totally frictionless experience, going back to typing out passwords feels agonizing.
That is exactly the intent. Phase 2 is online expansion. They leverage simple APIs, which are the software bridges that allow different programs to communicate, to place a one-touch checkout button on e-commerce websites.
That's smart.
Very. It is vastly easier to integrate a line of code on a website than to change physical hardware in a retail store. Consumers start using the seamless checkout online, and they begin experiencing the immediate reward of their phone bill actively decreasing.
Okay, so if they conquer the internet and build a habit there, the next logical battlefield is the physical checkout line.
That leads right to phase 3, which is offline retail. This involves pushing software upgrades to physical point-of-sale systems in brick-and-mortar stores. As we discussed, the merchant resistance to upgrading is simply overwhelmed by the sheer volume of consumers demanding to use the system that gives them a $0 phone bill.
The consumers inadvertently act as the telecom's aggressive sales force.
Precisely. And once the local physical footprint is fully established, the final boss is Visa and MasterCard.
Ah, phase 4.
Yes. Phase 4 is the global alliance, interlocking the various national telecom networks worldwide to create a seamless, cross-border payment empire, officially bypassing the legacy credit card infrastructure on a global scale.
Wow. We have covered incredible ground today. We started with telecom companies lamenting their status as a dumb pipe, completely terrified that low Earth orbit satellites were going to render their billions in infrastructure totally useless.
Right, staring down the barrel of extinction.
And their countermaneuver is to engineer an air-gap security system that actually pays the consumer's phone bill, creates a golden cage of convenience, and quietly turns the telecom into a multi-trillion-dollar, zero-interest global bank.
It represents a profound philosophical pivot in corporate strategy. Under this new architecture, you are no longer viewed as a passive billing target to be squeezed for a monthly subscription fee.
It's a refreshing change.
It really is. The consumer is recognized as an active economic engine. Your daily commerce generates immense wealth, and the telecom realizes they absolutely must share a portion of that wealth with you in order to survive the technological threat from space.
It is a staggering vision of how infrastructure, finance, and consumer psychology are all colliding.
Truly.